Continue our study of the book of the Doctrine of Providence. Today, we will talk about some of the aspects of providence and then talk about the categories of providence. I'm trying to take it really slow so that every part of this doctrine will be touched and then we can make application as necessary. We will open our Bibles to read. If I can't finish, next we'll continue. There's no hurrying anywhere when it comes to understanding the truth of the doctrine of providence. It's a very important doctrine that will shape our thinking in everything. If handled shabbily, it just goes, it can become a problem. People will start to become that complacent or what have you. But if you handle it properly, it brings honor and glory to God, and we know how to possess our soul. We know how to possess our souls as Christians. Last week I defined providence and I gave a very simple, I tried to show the element of providence, and I said two things. You can see two things inside the word providence. First is wisdom to devise or plan. Second is the power to execute the plan. So there's a plan. God is the one who has the wisdom to devise the plan. And it's also God who has the power to execute the plan. And this definition, you can carry it into everything in life. Negatively, providence, in a way God providentially preserve his creation. Otherwise, everything will go into chaos. So, in that negative sense, so that things will not go, just be hanging in the air, and there won't be a big bang theory. There will be a big bang that will bring things about. Providence at play. But positively, God, in providence, governs his creation. Make sure that everything is done according to his will. And that's, for me, is one of the most important parts of providence. We looked at Ephesians 1:11 to look at the intricacies of providence. And I said to you, if you understand providence, your faith will be strengthened. You can withstand the hardship that Nigeria is throwing at you. Or you can withstand tomorrow, whatever is coming at you next 10 years, even if the world powers say they will blow up the world. You just shake your head and just bring it on. Because you know the person who has planned the whole world. You know the person who has devised, that has the power to execute all his plan. We talked about all this last week, and I'll just mention again today two things before I go into the main area I'm going to today. The object of providence ought to also be known. The object of providence. And the object of providence is all things. So when we talk about providence, God has his hands in all things. As I was asking some teenagers yesterday, what is not in all things? Who has an idea? What is not in all things? Nothing. It's good to rhyme sometimes. Nothing. All things, both animate and inanimate object, both great and small, all things are covered under providence. And we'll see that later. Then we also see the harmony of providence with creation. Everything that God has created, God will make them work for the purpose in which he created them. But let's go a bit deeper into this thing of providence. And I don't want you to lose me. I will sound a bit technical. I'll bring in some science, and then we'll go back into the scriptures. But everything I'm going to say, I'm going to use scriptures to defend it. So you see that we're not just trying to be funny here. The reason is because sometimes once it comes to some aspect of life, we just take God out. God is only relevant on Sunday morning, 9 to 10 or 11. Once it's evening, no more God. Monday, oh, not God. The categories of providence, and there are 3 categories of providence. The first is preservation, second is concurrence, and the third is government. And I'll explain 2 today. The third one I'll do, because the second one is quite broad, and I want to go through every aspect of it. First is preservation. When we talk about preservation in providence, we're talking about God keeping all things existing and maintaining the properties in which He created them. God keeps all things existing and maintain the properties in which He created them. Turn your Bibles to Hebrews 1 verse 3. And I said this last week, we're using cement, gypsum, is it gypsum now? Silica, limestone, sand. These are the things that you have in cement that makes it bind together. But all these things are kept by God, and God ensures that they hold. Hebrews 1 verse 3, here, who being the brightness of His glory and the express image of His person, and upholding all things by the word of His power. The word uphold here does not simply mean to bear. Does not simply mean to bear. Uphold can be that you support something. But this is not only what it means. And this is where I'll go into some of the Greek tenses. The word uphold here is a present active participle, meaning it is bearing continuously or carrying something, supporting something continuously. It's the same word used in Luke 5:18 about the man that was paralyzed and was brought to the Lord. It's the same word used in turn with me to John 2 verse 8. John chapter 2 verse 8. And He said to them, draw out some now and take it to the master. So the whole process of drawing the water and carrying the water, take it to the master, drawing and taking it, that's the same idea. 2 Timothy 4:13, it's the same thing there. Bring the cloak. You see the idea? Bring something for me. So it's carrying. So it's almost like it's not supporting, Christ is not supporting the world in a stationary position. It is a continuous work of carrying, bearing every molecule, every aspect of life. So Hebrews 1:3 said, upholds all things, the word of His power. It is not only sustaining, it is active and purposeful control over all things, being carried from one place to the other. God is carrying all things from one place to the other. Every moving thing, everything that is in this world is being upheld and carried and sustained from one point to the other by God. The same is found in Colossians 1 verse 17, when we are told that in Him all things are held together. And the idea is, if all things hold together in Christ, it means if He removes His hands, everything goes off. Colossians 1:17. Hebrews 1:3, He upholds all things. Colossians 1:17, in Him all things hold together. Meaning once just like when you put a glue and you hold two things together, and once the glue fades away, the thing just goes off. That's how we are. Everything. Like I told you, what is not in all things, and we know that everything, nothing is what we find there. So everything is involved in this. Christ sustains the world by His own power in an ongoing manner. It's not a one-time thing. It's not stationary. And it affects all that he has done. Turn to Nehemiah chapter 9, verse 6. And these guys, they understood these things. And he influenced their prayer. He influenced their prayer. Nehemiah 9, verse 6. You alone are the Lord. And he brings in creation. You made the heavens of the heavens, with all their hosts, and the earth and everything in it, on it, the seas and all that is in them. He's covered everything. They now said, and you preserve them all. That is the doctrine of providence in preservation. He keeps all things and their properties in their original state and cause them to exist in that state continually. How? He makes sure he sustains them. Things just don't exist or sustain or remain because they are self-sufficient. There's a doctrine called the aseity of God. Only God subsists of himself. Only God exists without depending on anything. Every other thing depends on God. Even the two molecules of hydrogen in water and that one molecule of oxygen, that they come together to form water. It's God. For this reason, there is a constant in life, because the properties there's predictability because of God. The grass remains grass, water remains water. And when you mix water with something else, whatever it changed to remains the way, because the two components that you have brought together remain. Sometimes when you do some chemical reaction, some of these molecules they go off and it forms something new. Even the new thing that they have been formed to, they still God that upholds them. Science depends on God. Providence is the basis for science. Science is based on predictability. You know, for those of us who did small biology and chemistry, you do an experiment, you observe, and you infer, Abi? And then you write your inference. And based on this theory, you can now take it. If you do this and do this, this thing will hold. And those small idea, you now take into big industries. All this industry you see today, everything is from small principles and theorem that we have. Man just observe those things and they note it down, and then they apply it into maths, physics, chemistry, and biology. That's why there's even clinical trials to see if it works, and they make observation based on those trials, and they can say, okay, we have found this. Who makes those things constant? That's why if you have, imagine they've devised a particular medicine or an idea to build a bridge 100 years ago. It remains constant for that particular reason. Except for some things change, you do find a way to change some variables and you get there. What am I saying? Science performs experiments, and these experiments are based on the constant of God making things continue in their properties. That is why when the same science says there's no God, Psalm 14 verse 1 is the answer that is given to them. What is in Psalm 14 verse 1 and Psalm 53 verse 1? Fool. Who is a fool? Senseless. You're not thinking. That's when you are called a fool. Don't be too angry though. If you are not thinking and they call you a fool, don't be angry. If you are thinking, nobody will call you a fool. The fool says in his heart, there's no God. If you read Romans 3, that has that same thing, say there's no fear of God in your heart. So what happens is that when you ignore the things that are visible in your eye, when you know that there is a designer behind what you are doing, you picked whatever. I mean, we went through an assignment. I mean, me and some of the young boys, the teenagers in my BCM class, we tried to prove that everything that's created is from God's creation. They took me on and said, no, yeah, so that's okay. Phone. Okay, so pick any aspect of your phone. The glass. This is from sand. Oh, the chips, cobalt and the rest is from the ground. The plastic, it's from petrochemical or from rubber tree. And then we went on and on and on and on and on. There's nothing that's not from God. Try it. Even electromagnetic wave. Man just discovered these things. Gravity. How does God hold the earth in orbit? And the psalmist will describe it, that he has founded the earth on the foundation of the waters. God. It's only a fool who says there's no God. And so the doctrine of preservation, so Hebrews 1:3, Colossians 1:17, it tells you, if you read the verses properly, God ensures that these things continue in their present state. Then we can pounce on those states. Now, you need to understand this to go to the next stage of concurrence. Concurrence is another part of providence that we need to understand. Before I take question, let me just go into concurrence a bit. And you see, concurrence is like the application of preservation. Some theologians will even merge the two together, like Calvin. But it's good to also separate it, because we can now apply all what we have said into animate object, government, and all other things that we have in life. When we talk about concurrence in providence, we are talking about God cooperates. Since God is involved in every property of every molecule of everything, for whatever happens in life, God cooperates with that thing in every of its action, directing their distinctive properties to cause them to act the way they do. Everything that is working, God is in it. If God does not direct or sustain the properties of this bulb, it will not work. And since God makes all things work together for his own will, he will now direct everything here to work according to his will. Since he directs all things and is involved in sustaining or keeping them, he can then use them to fulfill his own will. Ephesians 1 verse 11. Ephesians 1 verse 11. In him also we have obtained an inheritance, being predestined according to the purpose of him who works all things. When you see all things, note it. Who works all things according to the counsel of his will. God accomplishes all things, make all things work according to the purpose of his will. Meaning God will make all things act in accordance to his will. No free radical in the world, if the hair on someone's head need to drop to fulfill the will of God, God will make the hair drop. If there need to be a drought somewhere for the will of God to happen, God will cause that drought to happen. Because he controls all things. He is involved in the molecules of water. He is involved in evaporation and condensation. All those things are in his hands. And he will direct it to achieve his will. He concurs with every event of life. I know it has implication. What about evil? What about this? We're going to talk about it. But God concurs with every event of life by directing and working through the distinctive properties of all created things. God, this is why we say God is the primary cause of all things. He is the primary cause of all things. He is the unseen hand behind everything. Let us bring some practicality to this. First of all, let's look at inanimate objects. Let's see how involved God is with inanimate objects. This is where we open our Bibles. Job 37, 6 to 13. Now, as you're reading this Job 37, 6 to 13, listen, for those who are not reading the Bible, listen carefully. For those who are reading, look at the words. So now when you're reading Job, you are carried away with Job's suffering. And you miss the point. For he says to the snow, fall on earth. Snow does not just fall. Verse 6 to 13. For he says to the snow, fall on the earth. To the scientists, to the normal way weather people, they will analyze when water has built up and the wind from the Arctic and Antarctica, and then to condense and snow will fall. And they are not wrong. All those things that they analyze, God is the one that makes it so. And God that will now say snow fall. Yet it is still God that will see. God is involved in all those their calculations, and ultimately it's God that will allow the snow to fall. Likewise to the gentle rain and heavy rain of his strength. He is involved in how heavy the rain is. He seals the hand of man, that all men may know his work. The beasts go into the den and remain in their lair. From the chamber of the south comes the whirlwind, and cold from the scattering wind of the north. By the breath of God ice is given, and broad waters are frozen. Also with moisture he saturates the thick cloud. He scatters his bright cloud. And they swirl about, being turned by his guidance, that they may do whatever he commands them. On the face of the earth, he caused them to come. For what reason? Whether for corrections, or for the mercy, for his land, or for mercy. So you can see, so you are seeing the heat, for example, for the past 2 or 3 weeks. The snow, minus 60 degrees in some countries. God is just ordering all things, using it for his glory. Inanimate object. You know what I told myself? Climate change obsession is idolatry. There is climate changing, but there is God behind it. And when you even see climate changing, and it makes you even more godless, something's wrong with you. Of course, we take care of the planet, we take care of our environment. But once it becomes like what it is today, without seeing God in it, because he said you can use it for correction, you can use it for mercy. There's even a text where he said he keeps the snow for a time of war. And we know history. In the Second World War, where it was heavy snow that kept a particular army from attacking another army until they were able to regroup. Job 38, in that next chapter, 22 to 30. This is God. Job was complaining. I'm righteous. I did not sin. I'm okay. And God says, shut up. Answer this question. Let me see if you are wiser than me. And this is what God asked Job. Have you entered the treasury of snow? Do you know where I keep snow? Or have you seen the treasury of hail, which I have reserved for the time of trouble? You see, that's the text I was trying to look for. For the day of battle and war, and by what way is light diffused? Or the west east wind scattered over the earth? Who has divided a channel for the overflowing water, or a path for the thunderbolt? Thunderbolt. The strike of thunderbolt. God is the one that directs the path. To cause it to rain on a land where there is no one, a wilderness in which there is no man. To satisfy the desolate waste, and to cause to spring forth the growth of a tender grass. Has the rain a father? Or who has begotten the drop of dew? From whose womb comes the ice and the frost of heaven? Who gives it birth? The water hardened like snow, and the surface of the deep is frozen. And then God started bringing in even vegetation. Someone in botany now, or biochemistry, whatever, can tell you how the top of the tree of the plant picks up the nitrogen, and nitrogen is fixed, and the microorganism, they can tell you all that, and they are not lying. But God says, I caused the grass to grow. Psalm 104 verse 14. He caused the grass to grow for the cattle, the vegetation for the service of man, that he may bring forth food from the earth. It's God. Involved in all the properties that makes the grass grow. And if he remove his hand, no matter what you do in your ingenuity as man, he can bring famine, can bring drought. That's why as man, foolish as we are, we use history to predict future. But God has his own plan in the future. And once in a while, he will just tweak it. All these verses just shows one thing. God cooperates with everything in order to achieve his own glory. Snow don't just fall. Rain don't just fall. Food just don't grow because you are smart. And that was one of the biggest sin of the ungodly. If you read, I think 1 Timothy 5 or 2 Timothy 4 or so, is that they are unthankful. And that is who God is. God, and when we who are God's children are told to imitate God, one of the things that the Lord said in Matthew is we should bless our enemies like our Father in heaven, who caused the rain to fall both on the righteous and unrighteous. Because you see a heathen nation that hates God prospering. They will go to farm, they will have bumper harvest. And sometimes that hardens them the more. To them, they don't need God. Without knowing that God is in every aspect of their life. Romans 2 verse 9 says, God's goodness is supposed to lead them to salvation, but because they don't know God, they can't fathom it. And that's why when we go out to preach the gospel, you meet someone that is not Christian, it's very easy to preach the gospel to them. Start with creation. Sin. These are common denominators for everybody. Apostle Paul did in Acts 17. The God who made the heavens, he said. And from there he started preaching. In fact, he got into providence when he said in verse 28 of Acts 17 that he has predetermined our times. He didn't go into John 3:16 and if you want big theology. He used creation. And then once you get into creation, you get into providence. Any question before I go into animate objects? Any question?
You just said now that God tricks. This tricking, is it ordained or spontaneous?
It's ordained, of course. So if his plan is that there will be no food, there will be famine in this land for the next 5 years, all the variables and constant that has brought you food will not work because he is involved. He can the properties of what makes food grow, he can direct it to achieve his aim of famine in the land. And it could be that someone just say there were banditry, for example, there will be no rain, or like what happened to one of us one time, you buy bad chemicals and your farm will die. Something like that. Bad government. Bottom line is see the big picture and turn your heart to God. Don't always see, yes, you can see that there's a bandit, there is a bad government, there is somebody selling bad chemicals, there is people who cattle rustlers. Those are the small second causes. But see the big picture and ask, Lord, what are you doing? Why are we here? What is the plan? And then turn to God. Not that you start rat race or fight, and you're supposed to these things are supposed to make you look at his face and seek him. But rather, it's making you dip head into the rat race, just as the heathen will do. Like the Lord said, he knows you need this thing. He is the one that must have allowed something. Some of us will even migrate to where there's prosperity. And if God will deal with you, in the land of prosperity, you'll be dealt with. You'll be going, only your rain will be falling on you. Everybody will dry. We need to start to live our life like as if we are in front of him every day. And that's what it is. Psalm 139. It's a question.
Okay, so my question is, would it be right to, when thinking about the decrees of God, would it be right to say that all the things that God has decreed does not mean that God stays out of it, that he is fully involved in ensuring that his decrees come to pass? Is that what we can tie providence to in that sense?
I gave that definition last week, that providence is the outworking of the decrees of God.
I missed that.
You were dozing, eh? Let's go into animate objects. Is God involved in animate objects? We'll talk about sin, we'll talk about random things. Is there anything like chance or happenstance? We'll talk about that.
So my question is, what happens in the place of prayer? For instance, you someone is in a situation where there are some things not going well, but then you have to pray for those things, but then it's also on God's providence that is what he wants for that time.
How do you know?
So how do you marry the two? Because you just be like you are praying and then your heart is maybe chattered because you feel like God should answer prayers, but then it's his providence that thing should happen at that time.
Next week, I will be taking the use of means. The use of means. How knowing God's providence and then how God has using the means that God has given to us. But let me just help. Men have asked the question last week. Part of God's providence, he has also given us how things come to be. And one of the things he said we should do is to pray. Sometimes he's the one that's steady to pray. Pray. So prayer is part of the means which he used to bring about what he has planned. So we believers are told to pray for our nation. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Even when we're sending them to captivity, do everything there. So it's not, prayer does not contradict the providence of God. But what it does, when you know the providence of God, it helps you end your prayer, or in your mind, you know that if God wills. Number two, if what you are asking for is not answered according to how you want it, you don't grumble or get disgruntled. You will say, like the Lord, let's call pass over me, but not my will, but your will. He felt the physical discomfort at that time, but the will of God was that he must go through that discomfort. And it's throughout prophecy that he must go through that discomfort till he bow to it. So prayer does not affect providence. Rather, prayer even help you. If you are praying amiss, for example, last week I said providence helps you to look for the will of God, because if he has planned something and it is what he has planned that he will bring to pass, what do you need to do? Just be looking for his plans. So Apostle John said in 1 John 5:14, this is the confidence that we have. If we ask anything according to his will, he hears. James said, you pray and you do not receive because you pray amiss. Because you pray to ask to put upon yourself. You're not thinking of the will of God and you're asking for something. He will never do it for you. Do you understand? So we will talk fully about talk a lot about, next week will be about the use of means, prayer and all that. And I'll flesh it more.
Okay, so good morning, sir.
Morning.
So, this concept of concurrence, right? You quoted Hebrews 1 verse 3 for the preservation. So, like, can it also be used for concurrence? Since it says, like, upholding all things by the word of his power. So, can that verse be also used when you're teaching the concept of, yes?
Yes, for example, John Calvin made concurrence and preservation together. Because if you are involved in all the properties, in upholding them, then you also, and concurrence said, you are involved in directing the properties. So it's almost the same. So you can say because Hebrews 1:3 talks about carrying, he sustains all things. And he will not, if he won't sustain all things, it's okay if I'm your Uber driver and I want to take you to church, but you want to go to a bar and I've locked on my door and I'm in control. You are coming to church. See? That's the idea. He controls all things. And so if he's one that drives and carries you around, he can direct where you are going to go. So in driving you around is the perseverance. Bringing you to where he wants you to go is the concurrence. So come to church. Okay. Let me go to an animate object quickly. I don't have time anymore. Psalm 104, verse 27 to 29. This one affects animals, food. You watch all this in Joe Wild, and you see how they eat their food. You think the cheetah is fast, the lion is strong, but the Bible said, these all wait for you, that you may give them their food in due season. When you give them, they gather in. When you open your hand, they are filled with good. When you hide your face, they are troubled. You take away their breath, they die and return to their dust. The Lord said in Matthew 6:26, look at the birds of the air, for they neither sow nor reap nor gather into barn. Your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not more of value than they? Have you seen an eagle dive into the water and just pick a tuna and goes up? Anytime it's hungry, God provides. It gives the eyesight, the sharpness to just see, and boom, the strength to fly out. When you look at all these things, just say, this is the Lord. And if God says no food, the guy will die of hunger. The same also for Matthew 10:29, where the Lord said, not even a hair of our hair can fall down without God knowing about it. What does this tell us? Fear, 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 fear. Providence teaches that God is in everything. God ought to be feared. The hunger in the land, the shortage of food, the shortage of power, all things are in his hands. But why is he doing this? Seek him. Seek him. Look for him. He's trying to get your attention. Acts 17, read that 26 to 28, said, we grope after him that we might seek him. That's one of the things that this should do to you. When you have done all, and Lord, call upon him. It doesn't make you lazy. You've done all, Lord. You want to do, Lord. You want to start writing, Lord. You ask for wisdom, ask for guidance, Lord. You are at work, Lord. You're preparing for exam. You are trying to understand how an engine works. Wisdom, as you read the science, Lord. And once you understand providence, all you will do is Lord, Lord, Lord. And once you're able to crack it, you have that invention. You're able to build an electric car. You have a big company that's running. You will say, it is not by my power. You bow to him. You worship him. You will not be proud. You trust him. What about random things? Random things. Is there anything called luck or chance? No way. Where? Who? Who chance what? Proverbs 16 verse 33. You know, when they want to start a football match, they will toss a coin, head or tail. And you are wishing that your goal post won't play penalty. Your goal post is behind your fan, so they can be shouting at the opponent. Okay. The lot is cast into the lap, but every decision is from the Lord, except you don't believe the Bible. The lot is cast into the lap. So this will happen. Jonah was running away from God. I entered the ship to Tarshish. The storm came. They don't even know who is causing the trouble. So you know what they did? Let's cast the lot. The lot picked the guy. Because it is God who decides. They don't need to hear one spirit. And this tells me that we use the means. We want to get deacons here. Who votes? Hey, don't worry. Let them even play politics. Don't worry. In their politicking, God will bring about his will. Me, I have ceased worrying about these things. Don't worry. Just do the right thing. The means God has provided, use it. And then see God at work. Jonah was called Jonah 1:7. And they said to one another, come, let us cast lot, that we may know for whose cause this trouble has come upon us. So they cast the lot, and the lot fell on brother Jonah. My brother, there's nothing like chance or random events in the world. There's nothing like happenstance. It means there's no luck, nothing like luck. You are trying to go get a job. You are trying to manipulate the people. You are trying to get an admission. Pray, do the things that you have been told to do, and trust the Lord. If you don't get it, don't think that it's that guy that was looking at you like this at the gate that caused it. No, it is. I knew that invigilator just didn't like me at the interview, or that examiner, whoever is there. I saw that man was mean. No. You have forgotten God. Pray. Do what they say you should do. Go in. Use the means. But every decision is the hand of God. If they give you, they don't give you, that's a Christian. So you can carry Bible all day, but you are as worried and as reactional as the unbelieving people, because you don't understand God. This is knowing God. That God is even involved. There's nothing like an inanimate object. You remember what happened to Ahab? Ahab was trying to run away from death, judgment. He went to change his clothes and wore that person's clothes. And then someone just drew an arrow randomly. He was not aiming at anybody. And the arrow went. And let us now use preservation and concurrence, because God controls projectile, controls atmospheric pressure, controls gravity, directed every property of the arrow to strike the guy he has planned to die by the arrow. Providence, that's it. So you can't, when you are just say, Lord, I'm in your hands, and then we help. Yeah, question.
Okay, so Pastor, my question is from this last scripture you quoted in Proverbs 16, the die is cast. And we see two examples in the Bible. We see the one you gave of Jonah. We see the one of the apostles, when they were looking for a replacement for Judas.
Yes.
Yeah, so can it be safe to say, as a believer, that maybe you want to make a decision which school to go? You are filling your jam form. You now cast a die. Perhaps to do which decision is from the Lord. Is it safe?
It's not safe. So you can see, let us speak, for example, let's speak for the apostles. They picked from people amongst them. They didn't just go to Jerusalem and say, die. So you've checked other things, sought counsel, this school, will it affect me? So on. You check what you need to check, seeking the kingdom of God first in your decision of making a choice for a school, for where to live, for who to marry. You are seeking God's kingdom and righteousness first. After having done that, you are still left with two options: school. You can now, for me, you can just go into research, and even if you are at Logos with the two, just pick one. You see, you can never be outside God's will in that sense. Just pick one. Finish when you have done what you ought to do. Now, if you like, say that I said just pick one, and don't do anything, just pick one. God will still direct your head in his will. But if you want to, the proverb said, the righteous seeth trouble, dodge from it, and they say, but the simple see it, goes in and is whacked. So that one, so for everything that we are saying, there might be other Bible verses that can also help you to guide you through all this thing we are saying. But the idea of that lot is every decision is in the hand of God. So trust the Lord, use the means that he has put in place for us, and then leave the rest to him. I know all these people also, people who try to go and look for who, they want to know the secret will of God. They'll go to church and say, Pastor, they put 6 people. Who is my husband? Nah, all those things. Is there that one person? You want to get to know that one person? You are not told to know the secret will of God. You are told to know this revealed will, understand that He providentially direct all things, and trust Him. This doctrine is a doctrine of faith and trust. It's not trying to know what then has God planned. Where will the arrow go? No. It's a doctrine of faith and trust, especially in difficult times. That God knows He has allowed a famine to break out in our country. He will keep us through it. You now go and do His revealed will. His revealed will is what He has given for us to do. Live His secret will. You don't know it. And the doctrine of the incomprehensibility of God. You don't know, you can't fully know God's will. But the one that He has shown to you is for you and your children to possess your soul. Last question as I end. I will do the rest next week. I still have affairs of nations, aspect of life, about evil. I'll talk about evil next year. Somebody is going to steal, and God is in everything. Is God with the guy? Yes or no? Next week.
Okay, so my question is tied to, I think, what you might want to do next week.
So next week then?
But I'm not sure it's totally tied to it because it's on the predictability.
Yeah.
On which most of the scientific stuff are built upon, because things are kind of stable. So how do you respond to someone who comes to you and tells you that he is placing a bet in Providence, and is saying that he has considered many factors and he has looked at history and the performances of players, especially football bets, and then now says that based on that, he wants to cast the lot and see if he will win something. Maybe
He
that's
cast the lot and he made his decision. But the Bible said a lot is cast, but decision made by God.
Yes, so my primary question is that how do we respond to people that, because outrightly we say that, oh, betting is a sin. So how do we respond to someone that now uses providence to say that God will still make the decision, and yet I can do all my own findings? And
Is it for betting?
yes,
Don't start now. How can you talk about sin? Why would I talk about betting? Does God give providence so that you can bet? Is that why God, all those that God revealed His will to, Joseph knowing that the famine is coming, is this why I can go and bet? No, now to save his brothers and all the wisdom God gave to him. So predictability, and if you go into I don't want to go into that. I don't want to go into too much science and technicalities. If you study it yourself, I think you guys should enjoy the Bible, go into these doctrines and study it, and you'll be able to even respond to science in all forms if you really study at a high level. Don't go into, when I talk about predictability, it is the constant in life. Not everything is constant now. Some things are constant in their pure state, and when something is added to them, they don't remain constant again. And even in that state, that new state, God is still involved. So predictability is relative in that sense. So people use history to predict the future, but they don't know what God has for the future. But they still plan based on what they have, and you too still plan based on what you have, history for future. But when God now changes it, you bow and say, God giveth, God taketh. Blessed be the name of the Lord. That's the response to even our own when God changes His will, because we don't know the will of God. And we are not meant to know God's secret will. We are only meant to obey His revealed will and trust Him for the secret will. Because He has us in mind. His thoughts are precious towards us. That's your ticket to the future, not to want to know what the future has for you.